Hello everyone. Don't worry, this isn't the return of the Southie show. You're not about to hear David or Cammy talk about some random football event from 10 years ago. This is a video I never actually thought I would ever have to make in my life, but circumstances have obviously changed that, and now I feel like I've got a responsibility to make this video and explain the situation that I found myself in over the past year. Now, a lot of you watching this might not know who I am, or some of you might do, but my name's Conor. I'm a student from East Kilbride, just outside Glasgow in Scotland, and I suffer from PPPD. Now, a lot of you might be wondering what PPPD is, and PPPD is a condition where it's a constant feeling of dizziness and unsteadiness on your feet, and it happens after an occurrence such as maybe an ear infection, an inner ear infection, or a panic attack. And essentially, what happens is your brain almost goes into a sort of shock and doesn't quite register what's happened, and you still constantly feel dizzy, even though the event may have passed and you may have recovered from what was initially making you feel dizzy. Now, the reason I'm making this video, a lot of you probably who do know me know that I'm not very open on social media. You know, I've got an Instagram page which I've had for years, which I've never posted on. I've got a Facebook page profile which I haven't updated the profile picture in about 7 years. I'm not really open. It doesn't feel this overly comfortable doing this. So if I'm a bit stuttery or anything, just bear with me. I'm out of this completely. I don't quite know what to do, but I feel like in my recovery, watching and hearing people's stories about them going through what I went through really helped me, because I know for a fact that when you go through this, you really do feel alone and you feel like nobody else is going through it. And watching other people talk about their experiences with it, even though they were truly horrible, it is, I do feel like, was a very good help to me, because it did make me feel like I wasn't alone in the situation. So I guess best place to start is when this probably started for me. And I kind of have to go back a little bit further to when they actually started, which is to November 2020. Now, we were in the grips of the pandemic, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. We were just going back into lockdown. I thankfully, for me, was quite lucky in the fact that I was still able to train with my football team, meaning I could still get out of the house until right at the end of November, where I actually ruptured my Achilles tendon, which was the first major injury I've ever had in my life. I'm 22 now. I was 21 then. And it was a big shock, you know, not being able to leave the house, being on crutches for a good few months. But I'm quite a resilient person. I always kind of just looked at it as, it's happened. Let's just bite the bullet, get through this, and it'll pass eventually, and soon I'll be back doing all the things that I like to do. So I came off my crutches in February, I want to say. So I wasn't fully healed yet, but I was able then to be able to come back up to university and see my friends and hang out and everything. But I did start to notice little small things about when I first started coming back out of the house. I felt sometimes a bit uneasy when I'd be out walking about, and particularly whenever I came back from my friends, back to my own house, to my mum and dad's, I'd be absolutely shattered. Like, I was completely knackered for a good day. I could barely just do anything. But I always put that down to, you've not been out in a few months. This will get over it. You're just not used to it. Then came the middle of March, is probably when I'd started to notice that there wasn't something quite right. I remember feeling ill, being at my friend's house and feeling ill the night before the first major event, and the next day still not feeling great. And that night I was driving home and I had the very first ever real panic attack in my life. It was completely out of nowhere. I wasn't feeling too great driving, but I felt more sort of ill, I guess. And I remember suddenly just feeling like the world was imploding in on me. It's a bizarre feeling. If somebody's ever had a panic attack, they do affect people completely differently. And my experience of the very first one was that it was really heavy breathing, sweating. My heart was completely pounding out my chest. And at the time, I didn't recognise it as a panic attack. In fact, at the time, I genuinely thought that I was having a heart attack. I remember pulling over my car at the side of the motorway on the way back, and I'm holding my phone in my hand like that, and I'm thinking, oh my god, what do I do? Like, who do I phone my mum? Do I say what do I say here? Like, I'm just sitting at the side of the motorway, I'm having a heart attack. Do I phone an ambulance? Where even am I? Like, I'm at the side of a motorway. How I'm in a complete panic. I don't know what to say. So I sit there and I kind of recompose myself, and I get back home eventually after sort of re no, I'm not sure what the word would be, but sort of just again just recompose myself, and I get back home and I say to my mum, I'm pretty sure I just had a panic attack in the car, and I'm not feeling great, to be honest with you. I'm feeling a bit weird, just not myself, and I say, look, I've not eaten really today, so I'm going to try and eat something. And I couldn't really, I didn't have much of an appetite, so I said, look, I'm just going to go to bed and I'll see how I feel in the morning. And that was the start. Uh, I don't think I left my bed really that full weekend. I struggled to get up. My heart rate was really up. I was feeling really odd, just like everything around me just didn't feel right. I couldn't watch the telly. I couldn't look at my phone. Like, I'd be trying to do things, and it was like my eyes just weren't focusing at all on anything. And I struggled to get up out of my room. And the main thing I could really do for those first 2 days was sit and look at the ceiling, because that was the only thing that wasn't making me feel odd. And that Tuesday, my mum was like, "That right, you need to go to the doctors." I've never really went to the doctors for anything in my life before, apart from checkups and jags and stuff. I've never really had to bother. So I phoned them up and made the appointment for later on to that day, and they said, we're not really sure, but we're not really sure what's up with you. So we'll bring you in for a face-to-face appointment later on this afternoon, which was rare at the time because we were, like I said, we were in the COVID-19 pandemic. And I remember that was the very first time I'd left the house all weekend, when that was on the Tuesday. And my mum literally had to hold me up to get me through the door of the doctors, because I just felt so weird and bizarre. And I remember I was sitting up in the doctor's waiting room. I was sweating and heavy breathing, and I just couldn't work out what was going on. I was terrified. Like, at that point there, I genuinely thought, like, I'm going to die. This is it. Like, I'm finished, because I genuinely couldn't grasp anything in my head what was going wrong. Now, the doctor seen me and she said, I can't find anything physically wrong with you on the surface, but you seem very, very tense. You seem very, very anxious. So we're going to give you something called propanolol, which was a blood pressure medication that they use to treat panic attacks and everything. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I still feel weird. I don't see how this can be in my head. Like, I feel physically not right. So I go away and I take that for a few weeks, and it really doesn't do anything. And this is where the start over this few weeks, where I start doing the thing that, if you are suffering from this, you really should not do. And it's one of the worst things you can do. And that is, again, reach through your phone and start Googling your symptoms, because you will go down a rabbit hole and it will terrify you. For example, in my first few weeks of having this, according to Google, I had 10 heart attacks, 10 strokes, cancer, motor neuron disease, you name it, I had it, according to researching my symptoms. And symptoms that probably weren't even happening. I just felt, oh, maybe I feel a wee bit like that, maybe I feel a wee bit like that. Trust me, it just made things worse. So after a few weeks of it not working, the doctor, I kind of noticed, and I started to recognise some of the symptoms. I recognised that I'm constantly feeling like I'm moving, that I constantly feel like things aren't right. And one thing that really noticed was if I was talking to somebody, I could see them. I could recognise what they were saying. I could recognise everything around them, but it was like my eyes didn't want to see them. It was like I was looking at you, but my head was saying, bury your head in the sand. I can't deal with this. Stop. This isn't right. And I really did get scared by that because I'm quite a happy person. I'm quite a chatty person. If anybody knows me, I'll probably talk to anyone. And it made me think that I really couldn't speak to anyone about it because I couldn't quite understand how it was going on. Like my mum would always ask me, and my dad, right, what is your symptoms? And I'd be like, I just wish I could give you them for 10 seconds and then you would understand exactly what I'm going through because I can't explain it. It is completely bizarre. So then after redoing that, I phoned the doctors again and they suggested that it might have been an ear disorder called vestibular neuritis or labyrinthitis, where it's an imbalance in your ears and it makes you feel dizzy and it makes you feel uneasy on your feet, and some people can make you feel sick. I was never sick with it personally, but it did seem very likely that it was that, and they did give me medication which should have combated that. And to this day, I don't know what happened with that. I probably did have it at the very start and it cleared itself up. But like I said, with this new thing that arose, the triple PD, that is something that arises actually after ear infections or panic attacks or anything like that. So it would actually make sense for that to be true. So I'd probably gone about a month of feeling really bad, like not really leaving the house, certainly not on my own. I didn't leave the house on my own at all for a good long while. And that's when I started CBT sessions, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, just over Zoom, which was really good because it helped me kind of understand my own brain and how it's sort of perceiving danger in a lot of things, and made me realise certain things that I was doing that I didn't even realise. Like, for example, I remember at one point I looked at my window and I seen what must be an elderly gentleman walking up the street, and I remember just feeling so bitter looking at him thinking, God, look at that guy, he's in his 70s and he's out walking about enjoying life, and I'm 21 years old and I'm stuck in the house unable to leave my bed. Like, what's that all about? It helped me understand a lot, and I stayed with that all the way up until January of this year, actually, and it was fantastic. If somebody is struggling, I would recommend trying to reach out and get them some sort of help like that, because it really did help me a lot. And it's not for everyone, and I understand that, but when it comes to some sort of things like this, you really do have to try a lot of different things, and some things will work for you, other things won't, and it really is up to you, and it's up to the individual. Everybody's different. So thinking that this was an ear infection all along, and then referred to an ENT specialist, ear, nose and throat, and that was probably one of the worst days of my life. Like, that was really panicky, really dizzy in the hospital specialist unit, and he'd done all the tests to make sure there was nothing wrong with my ears and everything, and the ears came back completely clear and completely fine. And he said, okay, your ears are fine. And I remember just feeling, oh my God, like, are you serious? Like, because I'd built it up like, oh, this is what's wrong with you. This is what's causing all your ilk. And this guy's going to be able to tell me what to do to help it. And he's turned around and said, your ears are fine now. I remember being absolutely almost gutted. I remember my dad saying, like, you've just went to the hospital and they've told you they can't find anything wrong with you. You should be quite happy with that. And I'm thinking, yeah, but it's still a mystery. And, at that point, I was still getting very scared. At that point, I've still had major panic attacks. all the way through. I won't go into the details of them all because there's too many to list off, but yeah, it was a terrifying time, and I really didn't leave my room, let alone the house, very often in those few months. And then it was suggested that what I might be suffering from is triple PD, and that is, like I said before, where you've had a traumatic experience, like a ear infection, a panic attack, or whatever, and you still are feeling the effects of it, even though whatever the incident has been has passed. Now, I probably seen a good few videos on this, and it really registered with me, the symptoms, because when they were explaining it, I suddenly recognised, hang on, that's what's happening to me. And the thing is, like, at its worst, you feel very unsteady on your feet, like light, loud noises, moving patterns. For example, if I was sitting in the front seat of a car, I couldn't physically look out on the road. And oftentimes when I was travelling anywhere in the car, I'd have to lie on the back seat because my eyes couldn't look at a constant stream of things coming towards me. Supermarkets, awful. Just constant lights and different colours and shapes going around you in like a movement like that. Completely destroyed my eyes. Like, I couldn't focus, I couldn't do it. And as soon as that happens, you start to panic, and then it makes things 10 times worse. So I watched lots of videos and done my research on that. And PPPD is something that isn't diagnosed by your doctor. It's essentially, they can tick off a lot of different things that potentially could have been. Like, for example, for me, they ticked off the ears. They done loads of tests to make sure my brain and everything was working fine, and everything was coming back completely normal. So that's when you can sort of diagnose yourself with having it. But I will say, if anybody is struggling and you recognise some of these symptoms, still please go to your doctor and make sure, because I am not I don't have any medical profession. I'm not trained in anything. I'm just sharing my story. And I went to the doctors, and I'm sure a lot of the other people who have made videos on this went to the doctors as well. They didn't just diagnose it themselves. And the doctor did suggest, right, this is probably what's going on with you right now. But by that point, this was probably by the August, I would say. And so you were talking March from August. I'd missed a full summer of completely, really just not being able to do anything. I was off work as well. Couldn't do anything at all, really. So that did obviously get me down, as it would do with anyone being locked up for that long. I know a lot of people during the pandemic obviously suffered greatly with that. So I remember it started affecting me physically. Like, didn't have any energy. I was probably very close to going into depression. I was off my foot and everything. I remember at the start when I first got this, I was probably close on 15 stone, and by the time August rolled around, I was 12, just over 12. So, I did lose a lot of weight from it, just from lack of interest, lack of eating. I wasn't expelling much energy. Before I was quite an active person. I played a lot of sports and everything, and I lost a lot I didn't have a lot of energy, so I didn't eat a lot, and when I didn't eat a lot, I lost weight. And it probably was quite good for me because I wasn't even eating rubbish, but it did scare me as well, because then I thought there was something else wrong with me. Why am I losing weight and everything? My brain was a complete mess. And that is when I made the decision with the doctor to move on to antidepressants, and I was prescribed a dose of sertraline, which has got a brand name, I think, Zoloft. I was just prescribed 50ml tablets originally, which were then pushed up to 100. Now, anybody that's ever went on to antidepressants probably knows that it's quite a scary thing. It's quite a daunting thing to do. Like, it's something that in my life I never ever thought I would have to do. Mental health was something that I didn't really understand before this all happened. I also understood people could struggle with it, but I didn't understand how powerful your brain could impact you. But yeah, so I was pushed on to the 100 dose after 2 weeks of being on 50s. And it is, I probably would separately talk about the antidepressants and going on to them, but they definitely did help. Mainly because the way that you get better from PPPD, which I'm going to go into now, is you can do exercises, which is sort of retraining your brain, which I'll put links to in the description below. They do help a lot of people. But the main way you get better is doing the thing that you really don't want to do in your head, and that is going out and pushing yourself and retraining your brain to recognize things and not to feel uneasy around different things again. So what the sertraline did was give me the confidence to sort of go back out into the world and see it and be able to sort of embrace everything that was coming around me again. And it wasn't an overnight fix. God, no. I started on them in the August, and I probably wouldn't say I was back to feeling almost completely normal. Well, not completely normal, probably till November, because that's when I went back to work. And then in December, I started playing sports again. And yeah, and then turn of the year, that's when I probably started going out again with my friends and everything. But yeah, it's a completely strange thing. It's something that I'd never ever even heard of before getting it, PPPD. It is one of the worst things. Well, it is the worst thing I've ever went through in my entire life. And if anybody's out there who is struggling with it right now, I can only say I am so sorry, because it is hell. I know it's hell, but it is beatable and you can get through it. One thing I will say about it is, and probably not something that a lot of people who are struggling with it want to hear right now, is some people's symptoms do completely go away. Mine haven't, I wouldn't say. I still feel sometimes very uneasy on my feet. When I go to bed at night, I'll be lying down and I feel like I'm floating and I feel like I'm on a boat. But it's all about understanding and recognizing what's actually happening and not letting it control you. And that's the main thing you have to get over, is don't let it control you, because that's when you will feel bad and you will feel ill, and it really won't. It will really take control of your life like it did with me. I think one of the things that really didn't help me was the fact that I had never had any injury before. I'd never had really been sick in my life before. I mean, I'd had stomach bugs and everything that lasted maybe 2 days, but I'd never even been ill with the flu before. So it was very scary for me to go through an illness and then not being able to recognise what that illness even was. So yeah, but that's really it. That's my story with dealing with PPPD. I'm now at a stage now where I am working towards the final goals at my studies. I am back out doing my normal life. I'm out just kind of enjoying myself again, which is the main thing. Am I completely 100% better? No. I'm still taking the sertraline. I've been moved back down to 50 milligram dose, so hopefully I'll be only on them for another couple of weeks. But yeah, things are a lot better now, and that's the main thing. I mean, I know that people watching this who are in the midst of it right now will not be able to see a way out from it. I certainly didn't. I thought this was going to last forever, but it doesn't. It gets better. It does get easier. But one thing I will have to say is you really do have to push yourself with it. You have to make sure that you are focused on what you actually want to do, and that is to get better. If you lie down to it, it will completely smother you. And I know how much and how tempting it is just to lay in your bed and sit in the house and not fight it, because that's where you feel most comfortable. We're humans. We don't want to put ourselves in situations that will potentially make us feel like we're causing ourselves harm. But in this situation, you have to, but don't overdo it. Build it up over time. For example, if you're going out for walks and everything, maybe just walk to the end of your street, walk out the front door, even just slowly but surely build it back up and things do get easier. That's all I'm really going to have to say on the subject of it right now. Sorry if this has been a bit depressing or a bit. It's not really me. I'm not really the type of person to do something like this ever. But I hope this helps somebody out there who potentially might be struggling for this, and for other people who could be struggling with panic disorders and everything. I know for myself that I struggled badly with that as well during all this, and things do get easier, and that's the main thing I will have to say about it. If you put the work in, bad times really don't last with this. You can beat it. You just have to really persevere with it. And for other people watching this who potentially know me, I'm getting better, and thank you for all the support from all my friends and my family and everything. I really couldn't have got through it without any of you by my side. And yeah, onwards and upwards. That's the main thing. And again, I'm sorry if you're suffering from it, but trust me, it is beatable. You can get better, and all I can do is wish you good luck with it. So thanks very much. And I don't think I'll be making another video, put it that way. This really has been quite awkward, but thanks very much, and I'll see you all possibly soon.